Today's guest is an Emmy Award-winning journalist for National Geographic. She's known for her investigative reporting, where she goes and delves into some of the deepest, most dangerous black markets in the world. Cartels, scammers, extremist groups, trafficking. She has been there for it all. We're going to learn a lot today, and I'm already thankful for her time. Today's guest is Mariana van Zeller. Mariana van Zeller, good to see you today.
Great seeing you too.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in. Congrats on your Emmys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a good night.
How many have you guys won now?
We've won 9. But you know what's interesting? I was nominated I've been a journalist for over 20 years, and throughout my career I've been nominated. I think I had one of the highest nominations with no wins ever, which was like 39 nominations, or even more. It was like 40
Before you got your first
Before
win?
I got my first one. The first one was last year. And I couldn't believe when they finally called our name, the name of the team, and we all went on stage. That first one was really sweet. That was last year.
But that's crazy. That many times you had to go and listen.
Wait and be the loser. Yes, many, many times.
But I guess that's also the part of the trenches of like the entertainment industry that people don't think about. There's like a lot of times people may feel like we're doing good work or we're doing this, or really any industry, but there's somebody before you that had been doing good work, that had put their time in.
Yeah.
And even it takes a while to get even through like the award systems, you know?
Absolutely. And also it's whatever. It's a prize is a prize. It's not the most important thing in the world. But the show we do, Trafficked, that was nominated this past season for 29 Emmys. It's a really hard show to put together. It's I always say it's the most challenging show in the world to put together. We're asking people, do you know what the show's about?
Yeah.
We're trying to get people who don't want to talk to us and to open up their lives and show us their crazy underworld and their hidden corners of the world. And so it's really, really hard. And so to finally be recognized, it's for the whole team, it's just that's what was special. Okay, what we're doing something right here. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because usually, tickling was the old school way to get people to just tell you everything, you know? But you really you come across some universes where I think if you tickled, it'd be a little bit obtuse.
I'm not sure if they'd like that.
I know. It's like, it always was kind of like a last resort. On this season of Trafficked, you guys have it looks like, I've just seen the trailer, I've seen different clips. You guys have, I know you go to investigate into militias.
Yep.
Brides for sale?
The trafficking of brides, rehab scams, which was a really interesting one. I've been covering the opiate crisis. But we also covered sort of the dark side of trying to get clean, which are these rehab scams that exist all over the country.
What's one of the episodes from the new season, this season 5, that really kind of you got kind of attached to, do you feel like?
It's always a hard question because we spent so much time in each one. I'd say, Cartel USA is the first one for a good reason. I think it was really chilling what we discovered. I've been covering the cartel for many years now and have traveled extensively throughout Mexico, namely Sinaloa. I've reported more from Sinaloa, Mexico than anywhere else in the world. And have reported on the drug trade as well. But I'd seen the presence of the cartel here in the U.S., which is why I decided I wanted to do a story about what exactly that means, how much of it is it that here, how widespread it is, and what's that mean for the country. But like in small little city towns, they're operating in many cases and have these drug distribution centers out of small town America. We interviewed a couple of investigators from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations who were called because there had been a gruesome murder of a woman who'd been tortured. Her fingers were cut off by pliers one by one in a bathtub. She was basically killed while still conscious and alive with a chainsaw. And this is because her cartel boss, she was a drug runner, and her boss, who was in prison, by the way, all ordered through prison on a cell phone. He was giving the orders on a cell phone live, and he believed that she had stolen some drugs. Turns out it was not the case. But this was in small town Georgia, like the last place you'd expect to see this kind of violence. But it's starting to come here as well. So they use, and I have seen this throughout my reporting, in whether we're talking about sort of smaller sheriff offices to border patrol, corruption is actually here. And it's a big tool that they use to be able to continue their operations. And then Go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, corruption, I mean, I think we're at a space now where to most people it feels like everything seems very corrupt, right? Are we allowing this drug trafficking? Are we allowing these cartels to work in our country?
I think we're just combating it the wrong way. The war on drugs has been a massive failure. I mean, billions of dollars spent for no returns. I mean, we're seeing where it's getting worse and worse. I think last year was the first year where the numbers didn't go up, but it's been going progressively up. I mean, in the last, I think, since 2000, 1 million people have died from the opiate crisis.
Yeah.
So I just don't think we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're not doing the right thing. We're not using the right tools to combat drug trafficking. And, the cartel benefits from drug trafficking. It's their breadwinning industry. So
it's their big business.
It's their big business.
Like, what drugs are the cartels bringing in, I guess? That's where I'm...
Everything. I mean, fentanyl, cocaine, meth. But also, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings that and was learning from me reporting on this was that a lot of these cartel operators are actually American born, American raised, don't even speak Spanish. One of the main guys that we featured in our episode is a guy goes by the name of El Gringo. He was born in the United States, doesn't speak a word of Spanish, and he's sort of a wholesale distributor for the cartel. And he realized he could do it. He could distribute the drugs really well. He was really good with logistics. And do you know how he distributes the drugs? They come in through Border Patrol. It's usually always, or 90% of the time, is official ports of entry. So it's not going...
Sneaking through the woods or
Yes.
something, or tying it to
exactly.
Deer and having them run over the border or whatever.
Right, or little kids with backpacks. That happens as well, but most of it is official ports of entry. And then once it gets to the big cities and then gets distributed by guys like this, who also operate of small town America, he's using actually commercial planes. Where he puts the drugs inside suitcases and has people like strippers, usually women that are more unassuming, and a lot of times strippers is what he told us.
Wow.
And you'd never think that, right? I was thinking trucks or vans full of drugs, or the white vans full of drugs or something. No, it's actually in planes. A lot of times he says he uses Delta as his favorite airline.
Delta is a great airline,
Yeah.
I will say that. But I didn't know those guys were that friendly, I mean, it could get hella friendly if somebody's shipping Molly up there, I feel like. So when you start to learn this information, what do you do with it? Like, I know you guys present it, right? Like you package it into an episode and you present it to people, but how do you convince
people to talk to us?
How do you convince people to talk to us, but how do you convince them you're not going to turn them in?
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part of our job. It's always the most challenging. I mean, we spend months, sometimes even years, trying to convince people to talk to us. And there's no real benefit to them, at first glance at least. I think for me, I've learned that it's three main things. It's ego. People like to boast. If you're the best counterfeiter in the world, or the best guy at making fentanyl or smuggling guns or drugs, whatever it is, the best scammer, sometimes your family doesn't even know what you do. We give them an opportunity with a mask and distorted voice to really brag about what they love. I mean, I've spoken to people, I'll never forget, we did an interview for season 1, actually, which was with a Peruvian guy who makes these $100 bills and 50s that look exactly like the real thing. They're fake, but they're exactly like the real thing. And he'd spend days and days, or nights, because during the day he was actually a taxi driver, nights and nights just perfecting the little creases and he used a certain powder that he was able to perfect, like everything so that it would taste, I don't think people are putting it in your mouth, but so that it would smell, feel,
just really
sound
be perfect.
Exactly like a real $100 bill. And you should see him talking about this. Like his eyes were like shining. He was so proud for being considered the best counterfeiter in
Well, you are a sculptor. I mean, you're like a money Michelangelo,
Right.
I guess. And that way, if you really did the best one ever.
But they are actually, their entrepreneurship and their creativity just never ceases to surprise me. It's pretty incredible. And then the other reason I think is impunity in many of these places, like Sinaloa, for example. There's just so much police corruption that they just don't see a downside to talking to a person, to me, to Nat Geo. Now the show is on its 5th season, so it's sort of established. People trust us more. And then I think the third most important reason is a very human characteristic that we all share of wanting to be understood, right? When I approach people, I say, no matter who they are, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here because I really, truly want to understand why you do what you do. I want to understand your world. And really, I think that's sort of the last thing that gets them to decide whether it's a yes or a no. I've gotten hundreds or thousands of no's, and that's the part that you don't see when you see the show, right? So it seems easy, but I think really is that sort of human connection and the ability that we have to tell them, look, I just want to listen, because I think listening and understanding is way more important than just judging.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also when people are living something in secret, right, it's tough. I think living in secret is tough, no matter what it is. Like if it's something that you're keeping from loved ones, if it's a reality, sometimes that you're keeping from yourself. Like I've done things in my life and I almost like compartmentalize them so I don't have to feel them, you know, so I don't have to feel like I have done those things. And I think living in secret and not having somebody to share something with, it can get very painful over time. So yeah, having, I think, an outlet of just somebody to even talk to for a little bit about something that feels so shameful or dark or confusing to you can be really, really, can be wonderful. Yeah, it must be just such a high when you're approaching like people who are, I guess, kind of underworld characters, maybe?
Yeah, that's what they are. Black market operators, underworld characters, people who their whole lives have been trying to stay out of the limelight and, you know, hiding and doing illegal stuff where they don't want journalists poking around.
And are you ever amazed? Did you ever meet someone and you were like, I cannot believe this person is involved? Like
Oh my God, constantly. Seriously, all the time. And you think that after I've been covering black markets for 20 years, that you think that after some time I'd sort of have an idea of who's involved. It's not only, you know, your neighbor that looks like a completely normal dude that's involved in some sort of illegal activity that you had no idea about.
You're like a Mets fan or whatever, probably.
Yeah. But that is also happening all around. I mean, I filmed episodes. We did an episode about assassins that was just a couple of miles from my home in L.A. And I interviewed an assassin, a guy who's paid to kill, just a couple of miles in L.A., an undisclosed location, but in L.A., not far from my house. It's insane.
And where do you go alone?
No, I go with my team, but no security. Usually I'm the only woman. You know, we have some female members of our team, but on the majority of cases, it's just me and my camera team, who are all male, producer, director. So we're 6 people usually. Very often I'm the only woman. And it's never with security. That's a question we get asked a lot, is do we travel with security? And I think that what security would do for us is completely counterproductive to our job. We're trying to convince people to trust us, to show them that we respect them. And if I show up with security, I'm basically telling them, I don't trust you and possibly I don't respect. Why should you trust me, right?
Yeah, like I've thought about having security sometimes, even just out in the world, and I just keep shying away from it because I just don't like the energy of that. But then also the world gets scary. But I think in your place, you're coming with a bridge of like, I want to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my cards on the table that I'm here in peace.
Right, exactly.
When you pull up on an assassin like that, like where do you meet them at? Where do they go?
Yeah, so again, it's many months, sometimes years of trying to get. I've been wanting to do a story about assassins. It's sort of all the black markets, right? Yeah, this is a former police officer in South Africa. South Africa is one of the biggest countries in the world in terms of assassinations and assassination attempts and actual assassinations and people being killed. And you can hire an assassin in South Africa for like $1,000. And so from LA, from interviewing that assassin, we went to South Africa to see why was it this crazy world and what could we learn from that. And you were asking.
Like when you go to meet an assassin, like
how did I get a meeting with him? Yeah. So in the case of the American assassin, for many years, I've been wanting to do that story. If you think of a black market, you think assassins is sort of the worst of the worst thing, right? Not easy, right? It's not as if you can go online and do a Google search for an assassin. Right. But I have a contact here in LA that I've done many stories with who really connects me to people in the underworld. He's a member of the underworld himself, and he's a really colorful character. I've done many stories with his help. And I contacted him, and he said, look,
Gavin Newsom,
I'm going to see what I can do.
That's just an old Gavin Newsom joke. Sorry, and I shouldn't joke around. Sometimes I do joke around a little bit. Let's go back
So
to your
you
story.
can definitely joke around.
Okay, sometimes I feel like, yeah.
Please do. These are serious topics, but it's not, doesn't mean, I hate it when people interview me and they think they can't have fun because I'm talking about such serious. I don't take myself too seriously, so please.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you. So you have this contact into the underworld.
Right.
And he connects you, or does he connect you on text? Does he connect you in person?
So the thing is with this contact, we always have to meet in person because obviously I can't text him. Even WhatsApp and Signal doesn't work. I can't just text him. I want to see, do you have an assassin for me? So there's always an in-person meeting, which involves a lot of cigarettes. We smoke a lot of cigarettes. He smokes a lot of cigarettes. I get nervous and I always smoke a lot of cigarettes. You have to smoke it. With him. Yeah. It's actually I find I'm not a smoker myself, or I smoke socially once in a while, but I don't smoke every day or even every week. But I find it's the best, whatever you are in the world, if you have cigarettes with you and you're trying to interview some of these characters, you offer them a cigarette or you ask for one of their cigarettes, it immediately puts you on the same level playing field. It really just helps calm my nerves. It probably helps calm the nerves of the person I'm with. So with this guy, it involves waiting for many hours for him to show up because he's never on time. And then when he shows up, it's like many
it's a
cigarettes,
black market,
a lot of cigarettes. And then I usually tell him like, hey, we're looking into doing a story about this and that. And in that case, it was assassins. And he said, I actually know one. He's a hitman. I've known him for a long time. And he organized this meeting. And he actually drove me to meet the guy. And he told me all off the bat, be careful. This guy I think he's sort of bipolar. I've seen this guy be super happy and suddenly pull out a gun and point it at somebody. He's a little crazy. And I said, but do you really think this guy is actually an assassin? Because a lot of people just like to brag, right?
Oh,
Is he an actual assassin? He said, dude, I've seen him being paid $180,000 or whatnot for a hit. He's known in my community. People know him. This is a guy that's well known. And so that was it. And so we met. And so we get there. It's at night, undisclosed place, but very close to my home. And he's waiting outside the car. And the moment I get there, you could see he's like jittery and nervous and not happy. And he was there because his friend asked for this favor. And in his case, sometimes it's easier for me to sort of have that human connection and try to talk about how I want to understand what they do. His case, he was just not. He was like, okay, here are the ground rules. And he said immediately, see this? First thing, he pulled out his gun. He said, showed me his gun. He's like, if this is a fucking setup, if the police shows up, I'm going to point this, I'm going to shoot you, all of you. You and your team, you're all dead. It's like, okay. And so the rest of the interview was me being super afraid that what if police shows up? Not because I'm there, but what if a car just drives by? And he's
what if some chubby cop's hiding from his shift over here right off the edge of this DSW shoes or something? Yeah.
Exactly. So I was scared. I was so scared. And I think it was the shortest interview we've ever done. I think it lasts like 15, 20 minutes. But also because, there's the initial questions is, what do you do? How often have you done it? Why do you do it? How do you live with yourself doing this kind of thing? The accountability questions, I always ask them. But the part that he didn't like, it wasn't actually like, do you know that you're doing harm to people? What you're doing is horrible. Like, do you feel guilty about this? The questions he didn't actually like was when I started asking him, he says, I only kill men, no women and children. And I asked him, but do you have children? And basically, obviously, I was trying to get to the point that even if the child isn't killed, the dad is killed. Right. That's horrible and traumatic.
He's already better than Netanyahu now.
He was like, don't ask me questions about my children. You're trying to get all soft on me. He was like, his macho persona was getting, he didn't like that.
He didn't like talking about his children?
No.
Because it probably made things very personal for him, maybe?
Yeah. I think part of his persona being a hitman is that he, you can't show emotion.
Right.
And so I was threatening to him in the sense that I was trying to get emotion out of him. And he was not okay with it. And he said, is this over? And then we left. So. And
how did he say how he lived? How did they live with what they do? Or what? Like, is it money? Is it once you get into that, you can't get out of it? Was there any?
Yeah. So in his case, it was money. And again, it was a 20-minute conversation. I couldn't get much out of him. But fast forward to South Africa, where I did interview a guy, an assassin, for 2 hours. And his story is fascinating, actually, because his parents were killed when he was 8 or 9 years old. He was an orphan. And he was bouncing around from like family member to family member. Nobody wanted him. He ended up on the streets when he was like 14 years old. No work, no education, and eventually started selling drugs as a drug dealer on the streets. And eventually, somehow, even with that, there wasn't enough money, and he figured out that he could make more money. Somebody offered him more money to go and kill a few people, and he did, or a person, I don't know. And he did, and it worked. He did. He was high. He said he was very, very high. He says the only way he could do it is by being high, but he did it, and he was able to do it because a lot of people aren't, and thankfully. And so while talking, it starts, he says, but I only kill bad people. It's like, what does that mean? What, bad people according to who? Oh, but to whom? Well, they're bad people. They're people who are stealing or who have raped or whatever in his mind he had justified for doing what he was doing. And then again, I talked about, do you realize that what you're doing, because he also said he doesn't kill women and children, but do you realize that what you're doing to those women and particularly to those children is exactly what was done to you, right? As a kid who you were left an orphan because of it. It changed your whole life. Wow. You're traumatized by it. And he had a moment where he's like, I had never thought about that. I had never in my life thought about that. And we finished the interview and he comes up to me and he's almost in tears and he's like, you have no idea what this has done. This conversation, nobody has ever been interested in my life or why I do what I do, and I've never been able to speak about myself. And it was a therapy session for him. I mean, that doesn't mean that I'm healing people. I'm not. But what I am, I think, is at least trying to understand and trying to show people who watch Trafficked why people turn to become criminals. Because no one, I believe, is born wanting to be a criminal.
You know, I believe that there's evil out there. I used to not think that there was. I believe that there is kind of pure evil, right? Now, can it be coerced into better ways? I don't know if all of it can sometimes. I mean, there's some pretty dark stuff that happens out there.
For sure.
But I do agree with you also that everybody needs somebody to listen, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like even Satan probably is like, God, I wish sometimes somebody would just sit with me for a couple minutes, you know? Maybe I wouldn't be such a piece of shit. You know, I don't know. But I think it's like the catharsis of having somebody see you, even if it's a part of you that you hate or it's a part of you you're so ashamed of, and not look at it with disgust, you know? I think the catharsis and the exhale that can happen inside of somebody's soul from a moment like that is pretty powerful.
Right.
But man, you feel bad that people get stuck into those type of circumstances. And you can also easily see how it can happen to people.
Absolutely. You know, if you look at, let me say that I believe evil exists as well. But I do think that the vast majority of the people that I spend time with, whether the drug dealers or the traffickers or the scammers or whatnot, that these are people that are born out of the circumstances that they're born in.
100%.
There's nothing that says that Mexicans from Sinaloa, from the mountain regions of Sinaloa, where the Sinaloa cartel operates, there's nothing in their DNA. There's nothing that says that they are prone to being more have a higher number of drug traffickers than, you know, a person like myself born in Portugal, or you were born in Louisiana, right?
Yes, young lady. Right. I was born in Louisiana.
A beautiful state, by the way. So what is it? It's because if you're born in an area where there aren't a lot of job opportunities, where your father, your grandfather are drug dealers, and this is what your whole, you know, many generations have survived on, you know, that's what you're going to be. I remember interviewing a pimp also in LA, funnily enough, where he was a young kid. It was like 26 years old. And I was asking him, why pimp? I mean, did you? And he was like, look, you ask kids in rich neighborhoods or middle class, and they're saying they want to be lawyers and doctors. In my neighborhood, the heroes were the pimps. The people we looked up to were the pimps. So all my life, I've just wanted to be a pimp.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in my neighborhood was single-parent family. The pimps were the only people that at least had a gal around. At least these pimps and hoes were in a relationship of some sort. You know what I'm saying? The rest, everybody else was just like, jeepers, okay. Yeah, we're eating Lunchables at night. This fucking household sucks. But yeah, at least pimps and hoes, like we're trying to figure something out, you know? I can.
And they were well-dressed and they were distributing money, right?
There's definitely a level of pomp, like in poverty of like certain things, you know? Yeah. Like I even remember like getting like wheel covers for my first car. Like it was a total piece of junk, but it was my car. And I had like these fake rims on it, but they were shiny and they looked like if another idiot like me saw it, he'd like, damn, he's got it. Yeah, there's all these things of like having some sort of stature, I guess.
Right. Yeah, the status is really interesting because I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was on Joe Rogan. I can't remember the name of the guy, but it was so interesting to me because we all know that we all need community, right? It's a huge part of being a human being. We need community. We need identity. But the stat that there was this guy, I cannot remember his name, but he did a book about the biological need that we all have for status, which I found really interesting. So this sort of race to the top is actually something that's
in our
us.
DNA?
Yeah.
Well, then that's interesting because they're talking about like, if AI got to certain levels, we'd have to create some sort of a universal basic income. And then I wonder in what way there would be few people that probably had a lot of ownership over status. And then in what ways would the rest of us look for status or create it? Maybe we'd realize that there was an error.
Right.
Because I think even evolution over time, like realizes sometimes, this isn't the right path and it course corrects.
Yeah.
Maybe we would realize, that this search for status isn't rewarding us as people, and maybe just investing the status that we want for ourselves. If we can get that out of somebody else's joy, creating joy in somebody else, then maybe that would be like a course correction, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I do think it's important for human evolution, though, which is why probably that is within us, right? The wanting to become the best and then creating the best.
That's a good point, huh?
Probably.
Well, for certain, there's a thing inside of humans where we want to know why, right? Like a lot of animals are running around like, you don't wake up and like there's like a goat over there who's sitting like on the edge of the property and he's having a coffee and he's like scribbling down why he thinks things are going on today or something.
Right.
But we want answers,
Not everybody, but a lot of us, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you
a good
do.
point.
You're obviously a very curious person which is why you have a podcast and you like talking to people. But I don't think everybody's that curious.
You do. You're over there tickling Voldemort. Okay? You're over there bumming menthols off of Voldemort so that you can get a little bit of information. So I'm out here I'm in the tertiary. You are in the trenches.
Tickling Voldemort is going to be on my bio right now.
You're tickling Voldemort.
What do you do for a living?
UFC 319 is blowing back to the Windy City, Chicago, for the first time in 6 years. Check out the fight card and get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Dricus du Plessis puts his middleweight title up against Khamzat Chimaev, who's a perfect 14-0. Who are you taking? I would love to see Dricus get the upset. I'm an upset guy. First time betting on UFC, if that's you, at DraftKings, just pick something simple like a fighter to win and make your pick. It's that easy. And if you're new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Don't miss out on all the UFC 319 action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Theo. That's code THEO for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. You know what I know, and that is that crypto is rocking. It's rocking. There's no doubt about it. It's becoming way more mainstream. I used to be out of crypto, and now this year I've been back in. Yep. It's blowing up. And when I need more Bitcoin or Ethereum, which I just bought some, MoonPay is always the first app that I open. Since MoonPay works with Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal, bank accounts, and credit cards, it's fast and easy to get what I need in a few clicks. Yep. And because MoonPay has been around for 6 years and is used by millions of people, they've also formed pretty cool relationships with other companies in the crypto space. MoonPay is partnered with Trust Wallet. Yeah, one of the most popular self-custody wallets in the world. With Trust Wallet, you control your crypto fully, no compromises. And thanks to MoonPay, you can fund your wallet instantly using your favorite payment methods. It's the fastest way to go from cash to crypto, all while keeping full control of your assets. Remember, while MoonPay makes buying crypto straightforward, it's essential to do your own research and understand the risks involved. Crypto trading can be volatile, and you could lose your investment. MoonPay is a tool to facilitate your transactions, not a source of financial advice. Trade responsibly. You need to have a positive shipping experience. If you mail something or you have something mailed, you want it to be effective. You want your recipient to be able to send it back if they need to. You need that handled and handled well. If you run an e-commerce business, you know the best way to be successful is to keep your customers happy. That's where ShipStation comes in. ShipStation helped us to be able to scale our business as it adjusted in our merch store, and sometimes it got bigger and sometimes it got smaller. But ShipStation was right there every step of the way. And the ShipStation interface is super easy to use. Like you can, just the ability to automate everything. Like you kind of get a habit of your tasks, and then ShipStation will help you do it for you. And it's all in one place. Custom automations, that's what they call it, to reduce shipping errors. And it's all at a fraction of the cost. It's the fastest, most affordable way to ship products to your customers, with discounts up to 88% off UPS, DHL Express, and USPS rates, and up to 90% off FedEx rates. When shoppers choose to buy your products, turn them into loyal customers with cheaper, faster, and better shipping. Go to shipstation.com/THEO to sign up for your free trial. There's no credit card or contract required, and you can cancel at any time. That's shipstation.com/Theo. Let's go down another road. You had mentioned that WhatsApp and Signal are farcical, right?
I'm not sure if they're farcical. I mean, I know that there are ways the government can go into it. I mean, there's a Pegasus, which is a program developed in Israel, which was used by governments all around the world, including Saudi Arabia. At some point, it was being used by the United States government as well, in which they could basically gain access to our phones and see everything inside, and even the encrypted messaging apps. Absolutely. However, it's still the app. Those are still apps that I use.
Right.
But if we don't talk about locations and dates, but the most sensitive information, we usually talk face to face or certain ways that I'm not going to disclose. But
for sure. I went to Qatar a few months ago to do comedy for some military personnel over there.
Yeah.
And part of me wondered if they had tapped my phone when I was there.
Yeah.
And because they kind of had me come very quickly at the last minute, I was like, why are they having me come,
Oh, wow.
I mean, I thought
was
it was
the government that invited you, or was it the military?
Yes, it was the hospitality people there. And they were extremely hospitable, and they were very kind. I didn't get nothing inside of me set off any qualms from them personally, that they had any ill will or they were out for anything nefarious against me.
For the Qatari military that you were doing
It was
this?
for the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
It was a joint base.
Okay.
But it just happened very fast. They're like,
can you come?
My agent was like, if you can be at the airport in 5 hours, you can go.
Wow.
And you'll be back in 36 hours.
Wow.
And so it was just a lot. And I was like, I was very gracious. I would go back in a heartbeat. I had a great time.
So in a situation like that, do you already know do you have a set? Do you have your comedy set already?
Oh, that was a hectic moment for me because, first I thought there was a part of me that was like, are they going to kill me or whatever? Because, journalism has recently become a little bit more, and I wouldn't call this journalism. I would definitely call this somebody recovering from addiction doing their best in front of equipment from Best Buy. But I would say that.
I love how they laugh.
But these days, that is kind of like what the world, it's like.
Right?
It's somebody trying to share what they think or get information that's not mainstream media, right?
Yeah.
So, and I just didn't know. I said, who knows if they put out a hit on, the top 80 podcast,
right.
podcasts, and okay, they're filing us in. And there was a part of me that was scared.
Right. So what did you do anything with your phone?
Well, the first thing I did was bring a friend. I was like, I'm not dying by myself over there, So I brought my buddy Bizzle because he's had a good life. And so I was like, yeah, I'm picking somebody that's I'm not picking somebody that still has to figure it out. But anyway, no, I didn't, because at first I didn't think that they would tap my phone or that they could have. But I don't know, is it easier over there? And then I asked Sean Ryan, and he's like, they probably did. They tapped, yeah.
Yeah, it's very possible. I went to Vietnam. I did a story about the bride trafficking story we did was in Vietnam.
And this in this new season?
For the new season, yeah. And it's a very sort of, the government controls the press over there. And so it took us months to even get the visa approved, the journalism visa to go to the country where we can bring all our camera gear and all that. And once we did, we were told immediately. We were assigned a government minder, a guy who's with us the whole time. And he also had some law enforcement guy with him. So every single interview we did, they were right there. Oh, and we had to send them questions in advance before every interview. And they would have to tell us it's okay to ask this, it's not okay to ask that. Which for me, for the kind of work we do, is horrible. We're trying to talk to, these bride traffickers and these underworld characters, the Voldemorts of the world, and we were being spied and listened to the whole time. And then we actually found out through some sources there that they believed our phones were absolutely being tapped. And there was one day, and that our vans, our rental vans, were being tapped as well.
Oh, yeah.
And when we were told this one afternoon, the next morning we had to go get into the vans, and we were told that the fixer had taken our van because the van had some problems overnight. And we were like, oh, we are definitely being listened to, spied, and listened to. This is bananas.
Yeah, while your van was sitting there overnight doing nothing.
Nothing. And it wasn't even his job. I mean, he was the government minder, and he took our van and disappeared with it for hours.
But
and it was like, okay, this is real for real.
But that's the problem, too. In some of those third world countries, you have to work 2 or 3 jobs even to get things organized. You're like, wait, I'm the fixer. I also have to install these spy equipment.
Right.
Like that. Come on, guys.
And then I get into the hotel room, and we're staying at a really nice hotel in northern Vietnam. And
the Rex Hotel, was that it?
It's not the Rex Hotel. Is there a Rex Hotel?
There's a beautiful Rex Hotel, I believe, in Ho Chi Minh City, yeah.
Oh, you've been?
Yeah, I just been there once when I was a student, but it was nice. This was a long time ago.
We were in a place called Sapa. It's up in the mountains.
Okay, carry on, sorry.
And we, and the phone there is a red light. So basically I'm calling another room and discussing when is dinner or something with one of my colleagues. And the red light is like going on, and then basically all signs that I was being, and then I was not on the phone, and then the red light kept on going in moments that I was on my cell phone talking to people, which they're not, if I was being in fact tapped, which people there told me I was, they're not doing a great job because figure out the light, you know?
Yeah, like the craziest would have been if you just opened the closet and it's just like a little Vietnamese guy just over here. Just
with a glass.
yeah. It's like, but that is kind of funny when you get into like, I don't even want to say poor, because a lot of times I think of poor countries as more creative countries. But as you get into more creative countries, you'll see like more creative, fun things like that are actually.
That's why I love traveling to.
Yeah, it's pretty heartwarming to see the way that they're like, this guy's a spy. This is your equipment. It's just an empty pint glass, and the guy's like, come on, guys.
It's so good. It's so good. But the Biden administration had been there with the State Department. Several members of State Department's phones had been tapped. They found out. Wow. So it is absolutely possible. It actually happens. And it happens at the highest level. So for, poor journalists like myself, where they're trying to control what I'm putting out there, they were afraid that I was going to be critical of China, because China's the ones who are sort of the kidnapped women, Vietnamese women, are being taken to China, and they have a very sort of fragile alliance with China, and they don't want to make them angry. So they had they wanted to know everything we were doing and make sure they weren't going to make China angry.
It's so sad that when you think about the news, right? Because the news or journalism is kind of the loudest voice of a nation, right? Or just anything, it's so crazy how compromised our voices are at the smallest level and at the loudest level. Take me into some of that bride trafficking, because it sounds bride, you're like, oh, congratulations, and you're like trafficking, you're like, oh, this took a turn, in just one word. Take me through some of that. What did you kind of learn? Like, what took you over there in the first place? And then what's that relationship between China and Vietnam?
Yeah. So we started seeing these videos online of essentially these women, a lot of times girls, teenage girls in markets in broad daylight being nabbed from the side of the street or these markets and being kidnapped. Sometimes
is that real?
Yes, these exist. And against their will, you'd see them screaming and yelling. And we were, well, what is this? And we found out that a lot of them were being victims of this bride trafficking, where it exists because in China, for many years they had it started in 1970, they started the one-child policy. So this one, I remember seeing this one. You see there's a woman there?
Oh, how scary.
Sometimes it's their own families that sell them. A lot of times they're just kidnapped in the middle of the streets and taken across the border to China.
And people can't help?
And so it's a little bit, I think people decide not to help. There's also a tradition, which doesn't help the situation very much, but there's a tradition amongst the Hmong community, which is terrible. But if you're engaged, it's a tradition that you kidnap your wife to take to the father and ask for permission for her hand. And it's sort of done with the acceptance of both families, and sometimes the woman is last to know. So what traffickers have been doing is that they've been using this cultural tradition to benefit their own actual kidnapping.
Yeah, they're showing up like a mariachi band or something, and they think it's like part of the thing.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. And they're actually kidnapping these women.
And so they kidnap these women, and where do they? What were you able to find out more?
Yeah. So what happens is one-child policy. A lot of in China, if you had more than one child, you'll have heavy fines. So as soon as you got pregnant, people wanted to know if it was a boy or girl. And in China, culturally, men are the breadwinners. They're the ones who will take care of the parents when they're older. And so it's very important to have men and not women for them. And so there were massive amounts of abortions done if they found out it was a female. So nowadays, there are more men in China than there are women.
Oh, it's gotta suck.
Single men. And again, if you're single in China, it's looked down upon because you're not procreating, you're not giving your parents grandkids, and there's enormous pressure on these men to find wives there just aren't enough.
But it's not even their fault. The government set it up so it's like, what do you?
I know. It's terrible, but then obviously the last resort is that they go into these poor communities in Vietnam and they pay these traffickers to kidnap them and pay them thousands of dollars to have these women. And the stories we heard were so sad. I mean, this woman who was trafficked, in some cases, again, the families actually sell them. I don't believe it was the case with this woman. She was trafficked. She arrived in this apartment in the big city in China, and she was immediately locked in a room. And the husband would rape her, would come in, and then she got pregnant, and then they took the baby. As soon as she gave birth, took the baby away from her, and then she got another baby, and then took the baby away from her, and then she was obviously depressed, thinking of committing suicide, awful. And she, at that point, had given them 2 children. The grandparents were living in the house, too, and taking care of the kids. And she convinced them to let her go see her family in Vietnam, because she hadn't seen for like 6 years. And she did. And she had to make the decision, do I go and see my parents in Vietnam and leave my kids behind? Or do I stay here as a kidnapped victim in a way that I can still have a relationship with her kids?
Wow.
And so it was awful because she chose to go back to Vietnam knowing full well that she will never see her kids again. And she was showing me photos, and it was just heartbreaking. It was really horrible. Sorry to bring it down this way.
No. I mean, it's just like we all live in such different worlds so often, you know? I mean, you can literally be falling asleep at night in a warm bed and you're okay. And then somewhere else is getting on a train and having to never see their children again, you know?
Having to make that decision, yeah.
But how did it behoove the guy, if he doesn't have a wife, if he needs to have a wife, did he just want the woman only for sexual purposes? Do some of them, like in that situation?
In this situation, yes. In other situations, mostly it's because of having a woman. But other situations, it's also for companionship, although it's harder. If you're detained and kidnapped, it's harder for you to, take the woman out for dinner, I'd imagine. But there are some situations where the woman sees themselves trapped, and then there's a lot of shame that goes with being in that situation, where then you prefer not to go back home and you just accept your new reality, which is awful. God. Yeah, it's very depressing.
Yeah, it's like that story you would see sometimes in movies where someone would get kidnapped and then raped and then brought back home, and then people would shun her because she had been raped.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Yeah. And the same thing, actually, it reminds me a lot of the African immigration and even Central American migration, but particularly African migration, where I've done many stories about kids. One was a soccer trafficking story where kids were promised by these fake agents that they would take them to Europe to play in these big clubs, and then they'd get there and they'd sell their house, sell anything they have to pay the agent, and then they'd get to Europe and they'd be abandoned, right? But at that point, they were so just embarrassed because they were sort of the hope for the whole family, right? This is the child that's going to bring us prosperity. And then they were just embarrassed, so they never spoke to their families again, and they would just live in misery on the streets of Europe.
So that was a scam. They were taking people there. They weren't. There was no soccer. There was no setup. People had paid money to be a part of this thing, this opportunity.
Yeah.
They made it look great with videos and pamphlets or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then there was nothing.
There was nothing. But the shame that's
well, how can I go home? I'm the one that I cost my family everything.
Yeah, exactly. So then these stories aren't told and nobody knows that this is actually happening because in their minds, the family's saying, oh, he must have made it really rich. He's not contacting the family anymore. The stories that they keep hearing is of success. The same happens in the, migration that we see in Central America to the United States or, the people coming to the U.S., a lot of them they are hearing the stories of success.
Right.
And so that's in many cases what they're not hearing the stories of desperation and how hard it is to get here.
Yeah, they're just hearing the advertising really. Or the positive advertising. Yeah. Are there brokers that are brokering those women in those countries?
Yeah.
Is it like a company that's like, okay, we need to try and get this many women a month? I'd love to know that. And then how often is this happening over there?
It's really hard to get numbers. We spoke to organizations who are on the ground, sort of taking care of the victims. Some of them managed to escape and come back. And they say it's in the thousands, but it's impossible to know exactly how many. It is unbelievable. The craziest part of it is because our hands were sort of tied behind our backs in terms of reporting. We had the government minder with us at all times, a police officer, like everything we did. We went out in the middle of the night to try to film behind their backs. It was really hard. But we actually were able to contact a group of local journalists who were actually doing their own investigation, and they were mainly Chinese, and they were able to film undercover. So we saw them. They went and had meetings pretending to be buyers in northern Vietnam, and then they also went to some brothels in China, where you are given. They showed us. It was like lists and lists with photos of girls, their bodies, them. It's not like modeling, advertising.
Right, their height, their weight, their body.
But it's for girls that are for sale. And so it's he was seeing like a whole catalog of beautiful girls. Some of them looked like they were 14 years old. And they're going through the catalog, and then they can just point and say, I want this one. And then that person is delivered to you. It's crazy. And a lot of them are being held basically at these brothels on the border in China already, where this guy also got access. So he went in, crazy video. He went in, it's a long dark corridor full of rooms. And then the brothel woman, he told them that he was there to meet a wife. And the one woman opened the door, he gets in, and there's like 3 or 4 women in there. And there's total darkness. He can't see a thing at all, and they're communicating very low, and talking to him and saying, "What do you want? What sex do you want? Let's do it." And he was like, "Oh no," because he's a journalist, undercover journalist, and saying, "I don't want sex." And she's like, "Please, they'll beat us if you don't have sex with us." And he had been locked inside at this point by the woman, the brothel owner, on the outside.
So he had to do it?
No, and then he managed to figure out a way where he started knocking on the door and saying that he had to go, that something had happened, and came up with an excuse to leave. But even him, and he's an undercover journalist that covers the worst of the worst crimes, he was telling me it was one of the most depressing and nerve-wracking things he's ever done in his life. And these 3, 4 women holed up in there in total darkness and forced to have sex with men that come like this. And then a lot of them are sold to become brides as well. Yeah, it's dark.
Is there regulation in those areas over that sort of thing?
They say there is, but obviously what we found is that there isn't.
And this is part of a new episode?
Yeah, this is one of the episodes of this season. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you leave a place like that and not bring it with you, not feel like you have to go back and do something? What is that like? I
think that's the hardest part. It's not so much about bringing this. A lot of people, I get asked sometimes, why am I not depressed and, at home locked on drugs because of all of what I've seen? It's not so much for me. It's not so much that it's the fact that, we live a little bit on somebody's nightmare for a day, and then we have the privilege of coming back. And, we're almost like, feels like we're exploiting their nightmare because we want them to share their stories.
I can see how it could feel like that at times. How do you manage that feeling? I mean, how do you manage that?
I'd say that the way that I rationalize it, I'm not patting myself on the back, because I think journalists love to say that they have a very important job, and I do think journalism is important, but I'm not the kind of journalist that goes around, telling people I've got the most important jobs. There are jobs that are more important. You don't see teachers going around saying their jobs are important, and I have no idea why journalism.
Neither one of us is Lester Holt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's be realistic.
But I do think that the way I rationalize it basically is that, putting the story out there and being able to gain access to these worlds and showing why this is happening, I'm hoping that then we are holding power accountable. We're telling those people in power that this is happening and trying to change the system, because at the end of the day, for me, it's not so much that people are broken, it's that the systems are broken, the systems that allow these things to happen. Whether we talk about immigration, or we've reported on fake pharmaceuticals and how the Mexican cartel and groups in India are making these really dangerous, deadly pharmaceuticals that Americans, like 20 million Americans, cannot afford medication. Their own that they need, life-saving medication sometimes. And so they're having to resort to online pharmacies in India, or going down to Mexico to these border pharmacies. And a lot of times that stuff is deadly and tainted with other drugs and other chemicals. And what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me. It tells me that people are exploiting a broken system. And it's our responsibility and our government that has allowed this to happen. Why is it that 20 million Americans can't afford life-saving treatment, right?
Yeah.
What does it say about us more than what does it say about the guy in India who's making these drugs,
Yeah. It's wild that, most people are afraid of getting sick nowadays just because they're like, I don't know if I want to go through all the bullshit, the stress of even trying to get better with this system. It's almost like it tries to kill you while you're just trying to get some basic medicine, It's it's heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking. Over your 20 years, kind of investigating the dark arts, if you will, have you noticed things getting, do you think, better? And I know that's a big kind of blanket term. Or have you noticed things getting not better?
Not better.
Not better?
Not better. So most people don't know this, but 38% of our global economy are these gray and black markets. It's what economists call the hidden third.
Wait, what are you saying?
That almost 38% of the global economy are these black and gray markets.
38% of the global economy, of the GDP of Earth?
So the drug trade alone is estimated at between $600 to $800 billion. That's more than many GDPs put together. Scams, last year alone, they went up, I think it was $12.5 billion were scammed from Americans last year alone. That industry has been growing. Every single year has been doubling and doubling.
Well, let's look at this first one for a second. So when you say that drug trade,
Yeah, the drug trade.
what percentage of the global economy are gray or black markets? Black market, shadow economy. Estimates commonly suggest the black market accounts for around 22 to 23% of global GDP. In developed countries, the black market typically constitutes about 10 to 15%.
Right.
Are you
so
kidding me?
this is just black markets. Gray markets are things that aren't necessarily illegal, but are unregulated and untaxed. So things like selling fruit on the streets, or clothes, or things that aren't regulated or taxed.
Okay, do you think that that's a little bit more, the gray market is more like somebody trying to make ends meet than it is somebody taking advantage of somebody?
I think a lot of it is just people trying to make ends meet.
Okay.
And a part of it is people trying to stay still on this side of the law. But that is not achievable for everybody. Not everybody can do that. So one of the first episodes we ever did for Trafficked was about cocaine. And we were in Peru, we were in Colombia, and we basically saw what it means for a kilo of cocaine to go where it's made. We went to the jungles of Peru. We saw how it's being made in these big pits with the coca leaves.
How does it start? Take me through it a little bit.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's actually fascinating.
I will like to hear. I want to hear about it.
Yeah. You've got the jungles of Peru, the coca leaves. They harvest the leaves, and you can see fields and fields of coca leaves that have existed for decades in this area of Peru. It's the Vrame Valley of Peru. And it's sort of...
Play some soft music too, Nick, if you don't mind. Sorry. I've enjoyed cocaine in my life, but no, okay, going in Peru.
I've never actually tried it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that in a second.
I've been offered it so many times.
I bet.
By like the purest of
you got to at least...
So this is then they dry the leaves and then they put them in a big pit. So we went in the middle of the night. We're going down this sort of trail in the middle of the night. It's super muddy. It's sort of rainforesty, raining all the time. And I'll never forget where it's dark and we're like 6 of us carrying equipment plus the guys that are taking us to the place where they're making cocaine. And my DP, who's French, he was with his very French accent complaining. He's like, "Oh, I can't. What do I do? I can't." And complaining that he's like, we're slipping and sliding everywhere. Meanwhile, holding these like very expensive cameras and canvas bags full of gear. And we thought it was going to be, like we'll be there in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And 45 minutes later, we're still walking down this rainy path in the middle of the night with nothing, no light at all.
We're such Americans. We're like, oh, we'll just park and then walk right over there.
That's what we thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll get the closest parking spot and we'll just walk. And meanwhile, and then there's no light. And I basically have, as I have now, the phone with at the time was another photo of me and my son. And and they told us we can't use flashlights, even though we had flashlights with us, because they didn't want people around the valley to see this, because what they were doing was it could get them killed. And so I'm only using the light from the front of my phone to sort of just see where I was walking. I'm covered in mud. We get there and there's this pit, enormous pit. It's like an Olympic-sized pool pit with all the drugs, all the cocaine leaves being mixed with products that then it stays like this for days. And then they sort of bring it out into these buckets, gigantic blue buckets, and they mix it with everything from gasoline and dye and all these products that eventually get made into this powder. And so we are literally seeing the whole process. And as this is happening, we start hearing noises. And that's the moment that we knew. They were like, okay. So as long as it took us to come down that valley, it took us about half that time to go up because we were running out.
Yeah, I even look at a bag of cocaine, I start hearing shit, so I feel you there. I definitely. Anyway, carry on.
You could actually.
Was there a gift shot?
You could smell it.
I mean, in the air, you could kind of smell it.
You could smell the petrol. You could smell the whole thing. And a bunch of us were worried that we were going to get. I've been in fentanyl labs, and that's even worse because there you can actually feel your body starting to like warm up. The physical. We were in an enclosed fentanyl lab in Sinaloa, Mexico, where the chemists, we're actually using like hazmat suits and masks because we're an American crew. Meanwhile, these guys have like a bandana around their face and they're touching the powder. And he's telling me, I was like, how do you know when it's ready? And he's saying, because I can feel it. My heart starts beating really fast. And that's when I know the fentanyl is ready. It's insane. You should watch that episode.
Oh, that's crazy.
Really crazy.
And that was last season?
That was actually season 1. We did a first season at fentanyl. But then just to finish the cocaine, because it's so fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
How it gets out of this valley, this region. We then spent the night with these kids, 16, 17-year-old kids who are backpacking and taking these 20, 30 pounds of cocaine or 20-something kilos of cocaine on their backs for days on end, for a whole week in the middle of, really rough terrain, seeing some of their friends being killed in front of them by rival groups. One of the ones I interviewed, I will never forget this interview. It sort of very much changed the show. This interview that I did with him is the second episode we ever did of Trafficked, and it was. I'm talking to this kid. I'm asking like, why do you do this? I mean, you've seen friends being killed. It's backbreaking work. They get insects all over. They're sleeping out in the open for days. It's just horrible, terrible conditions. And he's saying, look, I've always wanted to go to college and I want to be a dentist. And my family is super, super poor, and they're never going to be able to afford my education. And so this is the only job that's afforded to me. I do this once a month and I get X amount of money, and I'm saving that money to one day become a dentist. I thought, and dentist is an interesting, why dentist, right? You hear lawyer, you hear doctor, you don't hear dentist. And he says, because there's a lot of ads for dentists in my town and they all show people with a big smile, and I want to make people smile and I want to make them happy.
Oh.
And so it's stories like this. And I seriously started hearing more and more stories like this that I was like, okay, I think this is the message of the show. Yes, it's a dangerous world. We should be careful. We should explain and shine a light in these underworlds. But ultimately, I think the message of the show is that this could happen to any of us.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're born, it's like the wheel of history turns, and where And when you're born determines whether you get lifted or crushed by it, right? And that's the idea, I think, behind the show and so much of what I've learned.
Gotta let you know, today's episode is sponsored by Acorns. Acorns. Acorns is a financial wellness app. That's what it is. And I think it's my favorite, to be honest with you. It's one of those apps that makes it easy to start saving. And saving is crucial. You can get it for you. You can get it for your niece, like I just did. Acorns is a financial wellness app that makes it easy to start saving and investing for your future. You don't need to feel like financial wellness is impossible. Acorns gives you small, simple steps to get you and your money on track. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You just need to stick with it. And Acorns makes that easy too. You can create your Acorns account and start investing in just 5 minutes. I've now got 3 different family members using Acorns. So there. Sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Plus, Acorns will boost your new account with a $20 bonus investment. Offer available at acorns.com/THEO. That's acorns.com/THEO to get your $20 bonus investment today. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 4 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Theo. You know, I've been out on tour a lot this year. Different cities and crowds and different towns even. Wonderful places. And one thing that I do not have as much time for anymore, though, is handling the merch from our store. That's why I run my merch through Shopify. It's just easy. I mean, it's easy. You know, I can be backstage. I can be underground in an airport. I can be in the middle of nowhere. I can be in the middle of the night. I can pull up Shopify on my phone and see what's going on. Whether you're going big or just trying to make a little side hustle into something real, Shopify takes the guesswork out of it. And they got this new AI assistant called Sidekick. Sidekick. Feels like a little robot intern, doesn't it? But this one actually cares. It helps you figure out your next move, gives you reports, edits images, even throws you content ideas. It's like they got a little wizard in there making it all smooth. Go ahead, wizard. No matter what you're starting up, Shopify's got your next move covered. It also lets you sell right from your socials. So when I post something on Instagram or whatever, folk can just tap and buy. No friction. It's smooth. So if you're ready to build your own empire, whether it's merch or a new product or the next best idea, get on shopify.com/THEO and make it happen. That's shopify.com/Theo. This show is sponsored by Liquid IV. If you're like me, you're soaking up the last bits of summer, baby. You're out there. You're out there on your lunch break, hiding in the back of your pickup truck, laying out, getting you a little bit of sunshine. God, I like that. I want that. And if you're getting sunned up, you know you can get dehydrated. It'll happen to you, dehydration. And nothing fights that better than Liquid IV. Yep, Liquid IV. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. I use it. I get me a water, crack it open, and I take my packet of Liquid IV, open it up, pour it in, cap on, shake, shake, bam. Hydration, baby. I'm quenched. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. And they also have sugar-free versions. Yep, they got it all. Savor the last bits of summer with Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code Theo at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with the code THEO at liquidiv.com. I think you're right. I think, it's like you could look at it as like what's it called when you take advantage of something?
Exploiting?
Right. But I think you have to shine a light on something or people can't even see it, So I don't think it would be, if people are like, you're exploiting, I'm like, good, someone has to go exploit these things just to give us an idea. I think it's where, even when I was a child, it's like, or a teenager, it's where you got ideas, like you would see certain like documentaries or things that you would, and it would make you want to join like Amnesty International or different groups that like could have a voice. It made you ever even think about having a voice,
Right.
So yeah, I think that the positive far outweighs the risk of any negative. And you must have decided that a long time ago, or you wouldn't have kept going.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to think that there's some good that is being done in just raising awareness to all of this, but it does feel bad sometimes. It feels wrong. Like it's a day trip in somebody's nightmare, essentially.
Yeah. It would be so hard to leave. Have you ever kept in contact with people from some of these experiences?
So many of them. Yeah, I've kept in contact with so many. Yeah. One of the first stories I ever did for an American organization, a media company, it was for Current TV. Do you remember Al Gore's TV station?
I remember Current TV.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, I was with my buddy Ezra yesterday, and he used to Ezra Cooperstein.
Yeah, of course.
You know him?
Of course.
No way.
Of course I know Ezra. Yeah.
Bring up Ezra, man. I love Ezra.
Oh, how do you? Oh, you know Ezra from the podcasting world, of course.
Ezra and I just went to. Ezra's great.
I'm working with him right now.
Are you
I'm
really?
starting my own podcast.
Are you?
The Hidden Third.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
it's with
so
Ezra.
Awesome. I love Ezra. He's got a big heart. He's a neat guy.
Oh, he's great. He's awesome. Yeah, I've known him since the Current TV days.
That's so funny. I didn't know until yesterday that he'd ever worked at Current TV.
Yeah.
We were in San Francisco.
Did you know it?
For an interview, and we didn't know. He just said, I used to live around here. I used to work with Al Gore. I was like, oh, cool.
Do you remember that company at all, though?
I remember hearing about Current TV. Do you remember it, Nick?
Oh, no. Nick, just say yes.
I remember it.
What do you remember about it, Zach?
Thanks, Zach.
I'm kind of an outlier. I was really tapped into political stuff, so I was paying attention. I was at like 13 paying attention to that.
Anyway, it was great. It was a little bit of YouTube before YouTube. It was like, the idea was that cameras were getting so cheap and easy to use that they were going to empower young people to get out there and film and edit. So essentially they offered me money to go around the world with my husband. At the time when we started with my boyfriend, became my husband, and we would travel and did, the war in Sri Lanka, the Lebanese Hezbollah war. That's actually was our honeymoon was covering that war. So So we travel all around the world doing these amazing stories together, and we do everything. We'd film, we'd edit, the whole package, and then just deliver it to Current TV, and they'd give us X amount of money per minute of product of TV delivered. And the first story I ever did for Current TV, when I was still trying to convince them to hire me, was a story about the death train. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's the train
in Indonesia, you mean?
No, it was in Mexico. So it's the train that carries undocumented immigrants from southern Mexico to northern Mexico to the border with the United States. So it used to be, exactly. So it's a cargo plane, and
it's not Amtrak, is it?
It's just a cargo train that carries everything from.
Oh, okay. So it brings all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is this the train that every couple of years it's on the political kickball?
Yes.
They kick this around they're coming back or whatever.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't operate this way anymore. Thank God, because it actually is responsible for lots of deaths and amputations. But we were there at the peak of when this was operating, and it was like that. You see the hundreds of people on the
packed on top.
They were packed on top with no safety measures. Obviously, they're on top of a cargo. Sometimes they were holding on to the sides of it, and they would go for days and days on end just to get to this northern border where they could cross into the United States in the sun. And one of the kids we met when we first got to this town, Tapachula, which is right on the border with Mexico and Guatemala, was a kid who was in a clinic, and he had lost an arm. He'd been amputated, lost an arm to the train. He tried the train. He fell off the train. It went right over his arm. He lost his arm. 3 days later, we have convinced the guy that sort of runs the train, this part of the train, the railroad. We convinced him to let us go, me and my then boyfriend, who became my husband, Darren, to get on top of the train and do a certain amount of time. I think we did almost a day or half a day or something on the train, so we could see just how difficult and dangerous it is, and we could film with the characters we were following, because we were following a group of women from Guatemala that left their homeland to try and reach the U.S. and provide a better life for their families. And we're on top of the train, and we're heading towards the train to get on top of the train, and who do we see but Guillermo, the kid, Guatemalan kid who had lost his arm, who's going to try that journey again. And there he was. And we then introduced him to Maria, who was the woman we were filming. And they traveled the whole way together. And eventually Guillermo actually didn't make it across one more time. He was detained on the border. And 2 years later, and we kept in touch, and 2 years later, he was still texting me and saying that he was still trying to make it across. And so, I stay in touch with a lot of the people that I report on.
Gosh.
Yeah.
What inside of you makes it be able to handle this type of stuff? Have you thought about that over the years? Because I think that it's interesting, like sometimes even as viewers of things, it's hard for us to take on. It's hard to make it through certain moments of your stories to listen, even compassionately. It's tough, it's tough on our hearts. What do you think that is that gives you that ability or resilience or, I don't know.
Coldness?
Yeah.
Is that what you were trying to say?
No, I wasn't really. No, I don't think it is a coldness. I think of it as
I don't think it's a coldness either.
Yeah.
I think it's a couple of things. I think it's
like I'm genuinely how are you able to do it, right?
Yeah.
And do you think that because some people, we have to hear about things. So like some people have to have a gift. Like if you told the messenger something and he couldn't hear it and his heart stopped, then no one would get the message, right? So there has to be a reason that the messenger's heart is built a certain way. Right. So I think that's what I'm asking probably.
Yeah, I like that. I think that a few things. I think curiosity. I've always been incredibly curious. I decided I wanted to be a journalist when I was 12 years old, mainly because I'd watched anchors on television talking about the whole world. And I was like, these are the most intelligent people. I didn't know they were reading from teleprompters. I just thought their ability of retaining information was out of this world. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to retain this amount of information as well. So I think I've always been curious and wanted to know about the world. I've always loved traveling. I've always felt comfortable. I think part of growing in a small country, growing up in Portugal, small country, loving to travel and go out. I think very much explorer blood. We have a whole history, a big history in Portugal with the explorers exploring the world. And I think that's very much in my veins and my blood. I think I don't think my parents were never worried or scared of the world around me. They were never the kind of parents that would say, don't do this because it's dangerous. They weren't helicopter parents. They never were. And I think that just allowed me to have look around the world and not see danger, and look around the world and see opportunity and excitement. I think that's a big thing. I've tried to raise my son the same way. Because there are those parents that everything, don't watch out, don't climb that tree, don't watch out for those steps and everything. And I think you're passing on that sort of anxiety to your kids. So my parents were never like that. I moved to the U.S. to study, but then I moved to the Middle East. The war in Iraq was happening. I moved to the Middle East and I started my career doing this crazy job. And never once have they told me, be careful. Or of course they worry about me and they love me, I hope, but they won't never tell me not to do it. They support me and trust me, I think, which is very important. And then I think I'm really good at compartmentalizing things in my life in general. I can be with you right now and really enjoy this experience. Maybe this is not a good example because we haven't, but I can be with my friends in Portugal that I love and adore and have been my friends since I was 5 years old. And I love every second. And I think I'm going to die when I leave them. And then I'm somewhere else and I am there, and you're there. And I'm there. And I think that's helped me in the work that I do.
Yeah. I think you would have to be able to do those things. That's pretty fascinating. What a neat
job.
Ensemble of life you've gotten to experience.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
You have an episode in Trafficked this season about rehab scams. How did you get into that, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I've been covering the opiate crisis for a long time, and the drug business as well, and just seeing, talking to people that have gone to rehab as well, and lots of times I heard horror stories. And so this season we decided to really try to investigate what was happening, and we started our reporting in Arizona, where basically there are all these sort of rehab clinics that are there to exploit Native Americans, mainly Native Americans, because I know it's really horrible. Native Americans get access to healthcare much easier than non-Native Americans in the state. It was something that started during COVID, where you can just basically call the health department and say, this is my name, this is my Native American ID number, and they will give you insurance just like that. It was to make it easier for them. But what has happened because of it is that now they're seen as targets, as prizes for these black market rehab operators that set up these clinics. They basically go to reservations. It's insane. They go around these reservations convincing people that have problems with drugs or alcohol to come into their vans. It's these white vans, and so it's a little. I've heard about the white vans for many years, and you always think it's sort of a myth, right? But it turns out that actually in Arizona, it's not a myth. So
it's a very rehab thing too, the white van. Like usually if there's a detox center or if there's a halfway house, they usually come in a white van. So it's very typical to see that in that community.
Right. So that's exactly it. So they go in these white vans, they convince people. Sometimes they tell them, we're just going to go for a ride. This is what I heard. But the majority of times they tell them, look, we're going to offer you free treatment, free housing, free food. Just come with us. And then they place them in these houses, but they offer them free housing, but they don't actually offer them any treatment. Or if they do, it's shit treatment. And they're charging insurance insane amounts of money for bogus treatment. And a lot of times these are desperate people that really do need that treatment. And instead, they're being lied to and exploited and just horrible, horrible conditions. I mean, the state, I think it was $3 billion or something. Don't quote me because I can't remember exactly, but it was billions of dollars that the state of Arizona lost to these rehab scams in the last few years alone.
Why would the people stay there, I guess would be my question.
Because they had, a lot of times they were actually given drugs. And this is happening after Arizona, we came to California as well, where they're exploiting not only Native Americans, but anyone, people from all walks of life. And they're actually going to states like Alaska and Oklahoma, all around the country, and bringing people to these rehab scams facilities in California. This is where multiple state sources of news outlets.
Yeah, multiple state sources and news outlets have reported that the cost of fraudulent billing and scams involving rehab and sober living facilities has totaled approximately $2.8 billion for the state of Arizona. That's unbelievable.
3, that's 2.8. Yeah.
The scams primarily exploited loopholes in Arizona Medicaid system, especially the American Indian Health Program, billing for services that were often never provided or for patients who were not even in the facilities. Were the patients also part of the scam?
So a lot of times they're actually given alcohol and drugs to stay there. Or a lot of times these are people who, whose families, they've suffered from addiction. The families might not want them, or, they don't have means to go back, and they decide to stay because here they have a free house, free meals, and sometimes even free drugs and alcohol. So they stay. But what they don't know, or what is happening behind that sometimes they don't know, is that they're sort of a prize. They're being exploited, and they're making millions of dollars off the fact of having them in these facilities. And this is happening again in California as well.
Did you find out who are the solicitors of this?
Yeah,
is solicitors the right word?
Yeah, or the owners of these clinics.
Who is the proprietors of this?
Yeah,
who are
we
the
did.
people?
We actually interviewed, in Arizona, when they figured out that the state started cracking down on these rehab facilities, they closed hundreds and hundreds of these clinics that they realized were pure Medicaid scams. And a few of them were still operating. One, which was sort of the bad one that we kept on hearing about, was still operating. So we showed up at a Ramada Inn, like a decommissioned Ramada Inn hotel.
Oh, yeah, been there.
Decommissioned, and where hundreds of people were being held, or not held, but they were housed. And we were told that place, the government, Department of Health of Arizona, had sent them a cease and desist. And I told them they could not operate because they were running a scam, a Medicaid scam. And meanwhile, a few months later, we show up and we're outside with our cameras hiding in our own vans. And we see white van after white van in the front with people being taken into the vans and then being driven to this treatment center, where then that afternoon I was able to talk to somebody who went into the treatment center. I saw that a bunch of people were leaving the motel, and I just went up to one, started talking to him, and he said, it was hundreds of people inside this sort of classroom, and no one is actually getting treatment. But they're charging, sometimes up to like $10,000 a person for treatment that they're not receiving and they desperately need. Wow. And that $10,000 goes straight into the pockets of these owners.
CEO of Tempe Rehab absolutely denies allegations of Medicare fraud, right? So this is a place that these are...
This is the one that was running the facility from that decommission.
These are accusations. I want to let you know that's allegedly. We finally caught up with Newfound Hope's owner to see what he had to say while at the Arizona Office of Administrative Hearings.
We interviewed him, Dennis Artiles.
Okay.
And he denied that his facility was operating the day that we saw all those vans full of people taking people. We had recorded evidence of this, and he denied it.
Okay, so he denied that it was operating.
That it was operating.
You're saying you have evidence that it was operating.
That's right. We saw it. We filmed it. Yeah, that's an amazing.
Dennis Artiles?
Yeah, that's.
He's Latino or no? Is Latino?
Maybe. I can't remember exactly. I know that we spoke to his sister-in-law who was working. She was the one responsible for the billing in his company. And she basically became a whistleblower and told us everything, how he was double billing for people, how he was billing for people that weren't even there. So he's getting that. He was making $850 million, or his company facility, $850 million a month. She showed us the billing.
That's disgusting. Show up another picture of him. It's the only photo of him you can get?
Yeah, he doesn't like the limelight.
Of course he doesn't. That's why I want to make sure we get a good one of him. Because the problem with it is a lot of criminals, they don't ever get shown. And so people don't know who they are. We have a guy who allegedly stole a bunch of money from us a few years ago. What was that guy's name? Colin Thompson. I'm going to put a picture of him up right now just to remind everybody that he's never...
What did he do?
He got paid from advertisers and never paid our podcast and others.
Oh, no.
There he is right there.
Whoa.
Missing, defrauded, that I know of me and my friends, was up to like $4 million.
No way. What is he doing right now? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but
wow.
I'm glad that I don't have to be involved with him anymore. And
did you know him personally?
Yeah, I thought I did. I thought I did, but he just he was, according to me, and this is just allegedly, the guy was a complete thief, piece of shit. But I just heard. I'm not saying I heard. The only reason I know that is because I said it. I'm not saying anybody else has ever said that. Wow, hiding his picture from the internet. So you know he must have himself scrubbed off the internet. Just zoom in on his face a little bit. I just want to get a gander at him, and then we'll move on.
There's a video, too.
There
of
is?
him being interviewed, yeah.
That's the scary thing about the world. And I think one of the tough things is, who do you feel like should come? Like, we find so many dark circles and, like, pools of existence, right? And because it's weird as a human, you start to think, okay, well, I'm part of a neighborhood. My neighborhood help, or a family, right? Or a government, right? Or a country. You think these things... What have you surmised over time? What's going to come to our rescue? Do we need faith? Do we need teamwork? Like, is it all different for everything? What do you think?
I think we need a government that works, which is all these people are doing. They're exploiting broken systems. So for this story, we interviewed the fraud investigator for the Department of Health, California's Department of Health, and he was saying how there are thousands of these rehab clinics in California, and he estimated that about 10% of them are fraudulent. Wow. And so my question, that made me angry. I mean, I'm angry for these guys who exploit the system and who are basically, exploiting the most vulnerable people out there, but I'm mostly angry for our government. These are the people that are responsible to make sure that those people aren't victimized again. Yeah. And who are making sure that these people are getting the treatment that they need. And that is just not happening. So I told him, like, I'm angry at them, but I'm mainly angry at not you personally, the fraud investigator, but at the government and the department that you work for. And why isn't that more hasn't been done to prevent this from happening? So I think it's the systems.
And what did he say?
He says he understands that.
Right.
And he wishes they had more resources. Nowadays, you can, and he told me, like, you are found with a kilo of cocaine, you go to prison. You are found making millions of dollars on the back of vulnerable people, telling them, or telling the government, telling the insurance company that you're providing treatment they are not providing. You don't do a day in jail. And so they're just doing, exploiting a broken system is what I keep saying.
I know. And that's what I think is the biggest realization, I think, especially in the past year or two, is that it doesn't feel like our government's here to help us anymore. And that gets kind of scary, because then it almost feels like it's up to us. But then it also feels kind of inspiring, because the truth is that it's always kind of been up to us, you know?
Yeah.
So, but at least we still hopefully have ourselves to count on,
Yeah.
I'm curious about... kind of pivoting for a second, but curious about like what type of people will be on your podcast. That'd be so fascinating.
I mainly want people who have some sort of understanding or have experienced the life of crime, which is not necessarily you, but I think you offer other interesting knowledge. And you've talked a lot about your past addiction.
Yeah, I've been involved in illegal drug use. I've been involved in like sex, hiring prostitutes or paying stripper, that type of stuff. I don't know if that's I mean, everybody wanted to do it, or everybody was having a good time, I think. Yes, everybody's having a good time. But I'm
Sorry.
trying to think of what other crime I've done. I mean, I hit a guy with a vehicle once. He's fine. He's fine.
It wasn't on purpose? It was on purpose?
No. Yeah, so it was accidental non-homicide or whatever it's called.
I'll
He's
give you-
fine.
I'll
He
give you-
wasn't- He wasn't that great before I hit him, I'll be honest with you. And he was stoned. It was after a concert, and but he's fine. He's doing great. Still text. Seems good.
Good.
Good. Hope you're doing good, Henry. Anyway, let's keep it going here. What were you going to say?
But I'll give you a truth test after, and you can tell me all the illegal things you've done, and I'll say if you can.
No, I think that's all of them.
Or not. Yeah.
I think that's all of them.
Yeah, that's pretty good. As in, not a lot. I think we'll have a lot of people who are still, because I've reported on this for so many years, I have a Rolodex of really interesting contacts.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that will come on the podcast will still be wearing a mask so that they can talk freely about what they do. But for me, it's another avenue in another format to get people into this, again, the hidden third of the world that no one knows much about. Yeah. That's the idea.
Ooh, it's cool. Well, especially since so much of that black and gray market you said, that's 22% of American GDP.
That's just the black market, and I think what the gray market is where it gets more. But I can't. Was it just American GDP? I know that drugs alone in America alone is $150 billion a year, and that's just drugs.
And does that include just people sell like dealers on the streets,
Yeah.
or when you say the black market, is that like a website, or is that like the dark web?
No. It's just by black market I mean it's a market. So it's
Okay.
the market for illegal drugs in the United
Can
States.
you open that up, Nick? Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, estimates commonly suggested the black market accounts
The
for around
global
22 to
GDP.
23% of global GDP, and the gray market comprises about 8% of the global
And
market.
look at 10 trillion. The total global market is estimated with
Total black market
only rivaled by the GDP of the United States.
Wow, 10 trillion. The total black
Yeah.
market is estimated worth 10 trillion, making one of the world's largest economic forces. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we have whole organizations, channels devoted to analyzing every up and down of the legal economy, yet there's nothing out there. If you do, even do searches, there's like no one. We are one of the only outlets out there that is actually, gaining access to these worlds, investigating, showing people, peek behind the curtain of how they operate. And so that's where the idea of the podcast came. I have all these contacts and
Yeah,
all
it's
this
just
knowledge.
fascinating to think. Say if you look out into the world, say you're standing on a mountain looking down at the world, if you think that 20% of it is a black market, that's unbelievable,
Yeah.
because it starts to make you think, well, is there a baby in that baby carriage? What's going on
Right.
here? Who's moving that? Is it
Right.
what's really in that truck that's going down the
Right.
street?
Yeah.
And do you think those are fear numbers? Do you think that that's real?
Oh, that's real. Oh, I think that was probably underestimates it, actually. I think absolutely that's real. I mean, I've seen it all around. I mean, like I said, it's your neighbor. It's happening down the street.
Yeah.
So many of the work and the filming that we do actually happens in the places that you least expect, in broad daylight, in it's not the dark tunnels. It's like in open lit warehouses and, the neighbor's house in the backyard. We one of the stories we did for another season was ghost guns. Do you know about ghost guns? Ghost guns. So it's
I
readily.
thought you said ghost
Guns.
which is a crazy term. I thought it was like I thought it was British people that are like, spiritual British or whatever. Anyway, sorry to say that word, but I thought that, I was like, what is she saying? Ghost
do you
guns?
know, by the way, when I moved to the US, I'd spent some time in the UK, and they use the word a lot, but they don't, it's a whole new level in the US.
But they use it all the time.
Yeah, they use it all the time. So when I first moved here, one of the things that I used to say is that the rule number one, which I learned in the UK by an English journalist who was my boss at the time, and he taught me a lesson in journalism, which is rule number one in journalism is you don't work with.
Yeah.
And so I went around telling people this all the time and not realizing that people were like shocked. What the fuck?
All the lesbians are like, whoa, hold on.
And here I am repeating it. But
I remember I was in London and the guy's like, it was some guy with his kids. He's like, yeah, these are my two right here. And I'm like, this is, what are we talking? This is fucking, somebody needs to do an expose on this family. Okay. What were we just talking about?
Oh, we are going back.
Oh, so the podcast. So that's what it's going to be, is a
Yeah,
lot of that. Well,
right.
especially since it's such a big part of the world, I think it is fascinating. I think it is fascinating to see also who's gotten busted for things when really those things were out of necessity. And though they were crimes, they were probably like more like white, like,
Yeah.
non-violent crimes,
Yeah.
And what is that like?
Right.
And the choices people had to make. That's all pretty
Right.
fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm happy you think that.
She just brought up ghost guns.
Oh, yeah.
Ghost guns. That was it.
Yeah. Ghost guns. That's what you talked
Yeah,
about.
real fast. I'll just explain. So ghost guns are readily available, or firearms that you can assemble with over-the-counter components or 3D printed parts, or all of them together. They don't have a serialized number. They don't have a serial number, which is the ID of any gun, and sometimes they have fake serial numbers. In our Cartels USA, we interviewed a guy who basically goes around the country selling guns to the cartel and to gangs and whatnot. And he makes his guns himself. They're ghost guns, and he actually prints fake serial numbers on the guns to make them look more legit. So if you're stopped, you have a license to own a gun. You have a gun. You show a serial number. At first glance, that's totally legal. But if you investigate further and you actually put the number of the serial gun in the system, you realize that actually that is a ghost gun and it's not legal.
So somebody's just making them.
So somebody's making them, and they're making them. One of the other places I filmed, I'm making it seem like LA is the center of everything. It really isn't. This is happening all around LA, all around the country. But we actually filmed in a guy's backyard in LA, where these guys had an operation. They were making ghost guns. They were assembling them with 3D printed parts and parts that they bought online. They were assembling these AR-15s and these pistols. And then we were there when a buyer came. And the guy comes, and we had told him that we were filming, and he decided he was okay with wearing a mask and being filmed making that purchase. And he's a gang member, and he comes in and he buys a gun, and then he gets mad at our cameraman for some reason because he thinks our cameraman is smirking. He's like filming like this, making a face, and he thinks he's smirking. And
Like that. You have to do that.
And he starts being like, "What the fuck are you smiling? Are you fucking making fun of me?" and threatening him. And he had just purchased this gun, and things turned really dangerous, really fast and sketchy. And then we found out the day after that he went that day and he shot a woman with that same gun that he had just purchased in that backyard. So this to say that it's everywhere. It's like the black market, these illegal markets, whether it's guns or drugs or scams or whatnot, they're all around us. Yeah. And
especially when you have like people 3D printing guns. When people it's like Legos of guns now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, I got this cool new Lego kit. I'm building an AR or whatever. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, what is happening? Yeah. It's craziness.
You have one part I want to ask about before you leave about militias in this new season. I would like to be part of a militia one day. So I want to say that out loud. And I think, because I believe, I'm like the revolution guy. I want there to be a revolution. I want to be like on a horse, charge, I want to be like on a horseback or even a pony. I'll get on a pony. It'll be fucking weird. And people are like, dude, hurry the fuck up. I'm like, dude, it's this fucking small horse. But I do want to be part of the revolution, right? I want to at least try and charge the hill before we all get gunned down by Palantir, allegedly.
You have to go back in time a little bit to do that.
Yeah. Right. But
You're not living in the right time.
I don't know.
It actually might be, yes.
That's what I'm saying. So what do you find out about militias? Are they good or bad?
We don't go into a story thinking about whether they're good or bad. However, I would say that there's been a growth of militias in the United States, that it can be dangerous, that we are at a time in which we're more divided and torn apart than ever. We are seeing militias grow on both sides of the spectrum. So not only right-wing militias, but left-wing militias too. And they're both in answer to the other side, right? So we filmed with a group called Patriots for America, who are operating on the border. And basically what they are seeing is an invasion of immigrants into America. And they decided they were going to take matters into their own hands. They train, they use combat gear, they use, night vision, like top of the line, this is it.
Patriots
Top of the line
America.
Combat gear, and they go out there patrolling the border.
Yep, we are a diverse community of patriots that love our country. Okay.
Yeah. So what they say they're doing is they're just patrolling, although they have been accused of actually detaining one of the migrants. I asked them that. They say they don't touch the migrants ever. They just patrol, and they're sort of a what do you call it? A deterring
force, kind of?
Force, yes,
Yeah.
to prevent
Optics.
migrants from coming. What is interesting is that they're also operating. We saw it. They told us that they have support of a lot of sheriff's departments in the area, and they're also helping Border Patrol. We were there the day we filmed. We filmed them calling Border Patrol because they had seen some migrants crossing. We didn't see the migrants, but they did, and they called Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol came, and they hitched a ride with Border Patrol. We filmed behind as they were going to show where the migrants were crossing into the United States.
They sound awesome to me, to be
Okay,
honest.
to you they
That
do.
part.
It causes all sorts of problems. So actually, a well-regulated militia, which is in fact in our Constitution, is allowed. What is not allowed is unregulated militias acting and pretending as if you are law enforcement.
Okay.
Dressing up, training for combat. All that is actually not legal. And what we decided is, Sam Hall, who's the leader of this militia, we spent a night with him and seeing his work. And, I'm not saying that what they're trying to accomplish, they believe the country is being invaded. They decided that they wanted to do. I'm a strong believer. Our government is broken, particularly when it comes to immigration policy. But I'm a strong believer in holding our country accountable. It's very much part of the work that I do, instead of arming myself and training for war and going down there
I agree with that.
to scare little girls and kids and women.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
that is horrible. Having filmed and spent time with some of these migrants who are crossing the border, who are victims many times of extortion, of rape, little kids who are scared to death, and then they come across these heavily armed, uniformed guys that they think are Border Patrol, that are a deterring factor, and therefore probably, whatever they do, even if they don't talk, it's scary, right? And so I don't personally think that's the way to go.
Right.
I think you vote. I think you go to the ballot, you get involved politically, and if you really want to change, you try to change it that way.
Yeah.
Has it worked? No. But is that the solution? It's not.
Right. I agree. It's not. I think there is part of this, right? I agree. It's like somebody that's coming over here that's looking for a better life, that wants something different. I think the border system, they left it open and broken on purpose, I think, to create almost because then it inspires people who believe in America. Maybe these people's parents died protecting their country, right? And now they're thinking, well, they're having people come across the border, and a lot of them weren't even Latinos. A lot of them were bad actors. A lot of them were people that came here with ill intent, right? I think only 40% were Latinos that came across the border during like this great migration that's happened during like the Biden administration, right?
Yeah.
And then also you're like, yeah, it's like...
But that doesn't mean that they're bad people.
No,
not being
not
Latinos.
at all. It doesn't. But at all. I think it's really tough though if you were a person who, maybe your dad served in the military, and then you start to think, our government doesn't care about us anymore. Maybe someone who came across the border raped somebody in your town or did something bad. Now all you care about is protecting your own. So it's like, I can just see how people can start to do this sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I think in the end, to me, it's all our government's fault. I think they want the wars. They want the videos of the bull. They want all the fucking fighting so they can keep us arguing about this shit.
They can get votes.
So they can keep getting votes. Well, we're going to do it this year. They've never done it. They've never figured it out, you know?
I think immigration...
Anyway, not to get animated.
No, I get very animated about this
It's
topic.
heartbreak. It's fucked up. And they're the ones letting us all battle this. There's a new movie called Eddington, and it's really cool. It's like this sheriff in this town, and he during COVID, and he has to, and BLM and everything, he has to deal with all this stuff, and he's the sheriff, so he's like the authority figure, and it's watching him lose authority over himself as it all falls apart.
Right.
Anyway.
I get very animated. I mean, particularly with what's happening. I don't tend to become political or to talk politics.
Yeah,
but
me either. Kind of. It feels like it's just a joint thing. Do you feel like it is, or what do you think?
I do. I am not happy, obviously. I'm incredibly just saddened by what's happening in our city right now. Having spent many years
in Los Angeles, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, in Los Angeles, my city. Sorry. Having spent many years reporting on immigration, are there criminals who come across? Absolutely. Are there people carrying drugs? Absolutely. Are the vast majority of people coming because they are under, there's violence in their hometowns, they're in desperate situations? Nobody would be making that very few people. I've done that journey, parts of that journey, whether it's the death train or the Darien Gap. I've been on the border right at the beginning of the Darien Gap, which is the jungle that, a lot of people die trying to make it. And I've seen what it takes. And I've spoken to these people. And a lot of them are mothers. And nothing moves a mother more than trying to provide a better life for their kids.
For their children.
If their children are endangered, if they know that their kids can go out on the streets and be co-opted or killed by gangs, and if they're not killed, if they're not joining the gangs, I would do anything. Exactly. Yeah. I have a child myself, and I would do anything. And a lot of the stories that I hear again and again, they're not lies. They're real stories of human beings that are living under horrible situations, are trying to do everything for a better life for themselves and their kids. So I think when we start going out on the streets of LA in these raids, and I know personally people who have been affected by this, refuse, people who have lived there for decades and are afraid to leave their house. Yes, they weren't born in the United States. Some of them came here when they were still kids. Some of them came when they were adults, but have spent the last 20, 30 years living, paying taxes, working very hard, many hours a day, and have done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And being treated the way they're treated, being handcuffed, windows smashed in cars to remove this mother with the kid watching. These are traumatizing events. Whatever happens to that adult person, this is traumatizing for herself, for the kids that are watching. It's taking away the father of these military members. These are horrible. It's beneath us. It's just beneath us. I think one of the lessons that I've been taught as when I was growing up is, you should be judged by the way you treat the people that have less power than you do, and not by the way you treat those above you, right?
Yep, and I think we can put that directly onto, that's a great statement. You should be judged by the people who have less power than you do. And that's
by the way you treat them.
How you treat them.
Yeah.
And that's our government.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I believe that they knew, they wanted all this to, because they want this constant battle. They want to be able to have something to kick ball back and forth. We'll do it. They'll fix it. It's their fault. Because if they fix it, then they can't blame it on the other person.
Exactly.
And that's the problem, I think, with a lot of things in this country. And I agree. It's like, it's heartbreaking to see families separated like that. And it makes you question, like, well, why do I get to be here? I was just born here, and then you look at the Native Americans, like, well, fucking they didn't.
Yeah.
They got.
Exactly.
And then who did they take it from?
Stick.
Aliens or somebody? Right. I don't know how far back it goes, or mollusks or whatever.
Right.
But for me, it makes me certainly question, well, what, to say this is mine, But at the same time, there has to be like organized bookkeeping of inventory. And I mean all of us as inventory to make it so that everything can make sense. And we could do all that if we want. I believe that they don't want to do it at the top. And I also think that we're about to enter a surveillance state, right? I was talking with Sam Altman, the AI guy, and I don't know if he knows or not, but he believes that we'll be under surveillance will be a big part of things in the next few years.
That's so scary.
But I believe why a lot of this is happening now, and it's painful to see it happen, is because it's all going to be under surveillance soon. So you couldn't even be someone who's here that's undocumented, right? They have to figure out all the paperwork now. Like they have to figure out what's in the shelves of what's on the human shelves of our country.
Right.
So I believe we're headed there quick. And so that's why I think some of this is all happening now, because in 2 years, if you even walked out of if you even showed up in a parking lot, you were here like undocumented, right? You're overstaying a visa. If you showed up in a parking lot, there will be, like it is in London, they will have like cameras and you will know pretty quickly this person isn't, So I think that's where we're headed, and that's why that's happening.
Right.
And it is heartbreaking though.
I think it's a political tool.
I do too. And that's the fucking sickest thing. It's like we all, humans, we're down here having this, have like be scared for our neighbors, scared for ourselves. And those people are probably,
right.
They're getting on horseback. What the fuck are they, but they're they was sold a bill of goods that this is their, it's like,
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you start to wonder who's watching all this. Are we all just being live streamed somewhere?
Yeah. I did a story once about the flat earthers, and of course, crazy movement. Obviously, I don't believe in any of it. But one of their core beliefs, again, I do not believe it's not true. The earth is not flat. But one of their core beliefs is that we are being, it's like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
We're being watched, and there is somebody kind of watching.
Well, it does feel like it sometimes, though, when you start to spin out a little bit.
Yeah, it's not. Let's say it again. Flat Earth. The Earth is not flat, so they don't think there's any credence for me bringing it up. But
no, I don't look.
But
nobody's accusing you of that.
It just feels. It feels like we're all we're pawns in the system, right?
It does start to feel like that.
Yeah, and not in a way, not in a conspiracy. In my case, I don't think of it as a conspiracy. I think it's like they have the power,
yes,
as a president, to fix certain things.
Yes.
And the reason why certain things are not being fixed is because it benefits them not to fix them.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time. When 9/11 happened, 3,000 people died on 9/11. We reorganized the government. We spent trillions of dollars trying to make us safer. 1 million people have died with the drug war or because of the opiate crisis in the last 25 years. 1 million people. 3,000 people die a week, which is what died in 9/11. 3,000 every week from drug and alcohol. And our government still hasn't figured out a way to create a better solution to prevent this from happening. That makes no sense to me.
They don't want to.
And yeah, it's
you
not.
You have to believe that at a certain point,
yeah,
huh?
at a certain point, you just think like, what's happening? Like, wake up! This, Americans are suffering, and I think in many ways the suffering, drug addiction, unemployment, poverty. Many people, we used to be able to afford a house, be able to get married, things that people aren't allowed or can't make happen.
Yeah, one parent used to be able to work.
Right, and you have a president who points the finger, or presidents and people politicians who point the finger at immigrants as being the cause of all evil. Everything that's bad in Europe life right now is because of this group of people.
Yeah.
And it's much easier, right? It's easier to blame one group of people than it is to actually fix the things that are wrong. Because then you can just say, this is it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think we're in a spot right now where there's a lot of exposing of I think people are seeing the lies. They're seeing, this is not, you don't care anymore. You guys aren't voting on it. No, it's all a charade. It's all nothing. You guys are all compromised.
Yeah.
I'm working with this Democratic congressman right now. His name is Ro Khanna, and he is the congressman for Silicon Valley. And we're working on building an app, right? So an app where you could put in all your beliefs into it. And you could put in, I don't want this person accepting money from these lobbies, or I don't want them associated with this. And then you can say, tell me who I should vote for based on these things, right? So then people will be armed. When they go, it's like, this is exactly who you should vote for if these are the things you want. So that way, it's because they trick you with all this shit,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's why when I say militia, I'm like, I don't know what. I'm just glad that militias are at least practicing, because there needs to be a revolution. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's some guy riding into the Capitol with a fucking wearing horns or something. But I think it's something, and I don't know what it is.
Right. In my mind, it's not so much. I mean, we haven't found a better system than democracy, right? What is a revolution going to bring us? A different system. Unfortunately, democracy is it.
Right. Because all we would do is go to another democracy.
And or worse. Or a system that's not democracy, in which case we're totally fucked. So if democracy is the best system and it is about voting, it's, I think, just about getting more engaged. I kick myself every election that I don't get more engaged. And, I'm trying to do work that is raising awareness to issues and sort of shining a light on systems that are broken. But at the same time, I wish I should be doing more. I think all of us should be doing more to make sure that our democracy survives.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe with your new podcast, you can have important interviews with people who are going to make commitments. And then, I think we as podcasts, I'll probably go to jail for something, but that we can try our best to try to hold people to what they say, you know?
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Really.
But thank you for thinking out loud with me. You know, one of the craziest things was people that were coming across the border, they weren't even doing paperwork on them because they wanted them to go back and they wanted there to be this thing, right? Because that makes the numbers look bigger. It's it's all fucking such a charade.
It really is.
So we just have to think with our hearts and keep shining light where we can. And keep just trying to do better ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about a lot of stuff today.
Yes, we have.
When's the new podcast going to start?
We don't know yet. Sometime in the fall.
Cool. That's
I'll
going to be
let you
great.
know.
And you're
Thank
working
you.
with Ezra. He's great.
Yeah, I love
And those guys.
Yeah.
Roost. Are you working with the Roost?
Yeah.
Oh, they're great.
I am.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, they do our
Yeah.
ads and
Yeah.
they're really, really super.
Yeah.
Mariana van Zeller, thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
I'm great. Thank
You
you,
are?
Theo. This has been really awesome.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been an easy conversation to have. So the new season, Traffic, starts.
It came out this past weekend on National Geographic. It airs every Saturday at 9 p.m. And then all the episodes are available on Hulu right now. So you can watch the episodes from this season, but you can go back and watch some of the episodes we talked about from all previous seasons.
Yeah. Fascinating. Being alive is interesting.
No, it is. Human beings are fascinating.
I know. It's Mariana van Zeller, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate your time. Congrats on the Emmys, and we'll make sure to check out the new season.
Thank you so much, Theo. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Now I'm just floating on the breeze, and I feel I'm falling like these leaves. I must be cornerstone.